Okay. Just a little touch from the baby bottle here. Go.
So that was pretty heavy pour there.
I mean, it's mostly water, let's be honest. I rode my bike in the snow this morning. I feel like I deserve it, you know? Welcome, Drink with James, episode 86. Do you see that, like, I had to look up there, as I'd forgotten. But it is episode 86. This conference room that we shoot in gets really hot, especially in the winter. The heat just like shoots directly into this room. And while we are a mostly female-led company, you know, I think we're 60 or 70% women. We do have, you know, quite a few men that work here. And sometimes those men get stuck in this conference room for an hour or so, and then the room smells like a locker room. So we have a new addition today from Diptyque. I don't think they gave it to us, we bought it. I don't actually know how to pronounce that. I always just call it babies. But it smells a lot better now. Are you guys Diptyque people? What's your candle of choice? I'm really more of a Le Labo man myself, personally. But those are $88, so I don't get to buy too many of them. So I think I may have touched on this before, but obviously you can send me whiskey and I will drink it, but you can also send me Le Labo candles and I will burn them in my home, and I'll think of you for months. You know, the whiskey bottle may last a week in this office of you know, animals. But the Le Labo candle I will take to my home and I will burn it and I will think of you all the time. So if that's something that you want, that's weird, but feel free to send a candle through.
You're not gonna burn it on the show?
No. Well, I would maybe I would show it on the show and I'd be like, thank you so much, and I'd have Tim put your handle on there. But then I would take it home. I'm a selfish man. End of the day, I'm in it for me, you know. So I don't need the office to smell like Santal. I want my home too. Moving on. What else is going on? It's Fashion Week. Totally forgot. You guys were asking questions all the time about Fashion Week. We answered them all. We killed it. We answered every question there ever was and ever will be about Fashion Week. I managed to shit all over it and say that I said, in my defense, I said that I think Fashion Week is dying and that in 5 to 10 years it will no longer be relevant in the form that it is in today. I think that my comments got taken as Fashion Week doesn't matter anymore, which is maybe a little bit of a jump. So whoever is twisting my words, that's not what I meant. It is dying, it's not dead yet. Big difference. So there's that. It's Fashion Week, and I love Fashion Week. I think it's really fun. I don't really do anything anymore. I don't go to the shows or anything, but it's nice to have the whole industry in one place. Everyone's drinking together, everyone's hanging out. The thing I don't like about this season in February is that New York City becomes infested with people from LA, and all of them bitch and moan about the weather constantly on their Instagrams. And I feel like if you are an influencer and you've been coming to New York Fashion Week for, 5 years or something, you should know that in the Northeast, we have this thing called weather and seasons, and it is fucking cold in February, and you should pack a coat. Every year there's photos of influencers on the one day that it's 22 degrees and they're wearing like a see-through chiffon top and like, a pair of high-waisted trousers, and like they're like getting frostbite, and you look fucking ridiculous. New Yorkers do not dress that way. You walk around New York City on a cold day, motherfuckers be wearing sleeping bags walking down the street. Nobody cares about how they look when it's cold, and all the LA people come and they wear their like cute little jackets and they freeze and they have no socks on or something, walking in puddles. I love it. I love the photos of the influencers stepping into a slushy puddle in $800 heels and no socks on. It brings me an immense amount of joy, but I am a petty man, so Move on. Let's just move on to questions.
Wait, so you were getting some hate mail about people saying Fashion Week was dead?
I think I wasn't getting hate mail, but somebody like tweeted something that says like James Nord says like Fashion Week is dead or something. Which maybe I did. I don't know what I say on this show. I just let it flow. You know, we just get it out. Oh, another thing is I've seen a couple influencers so far changing up their new post strategy on Instagram. Kudos if you guys haven't seen that. I rail on the like emoji new post thing that people do on Insta stories in the last episode. So check it out because sorry, I have an itch. I think it's very annoying, and I talk all about it, and I won't talk about it again. But for those of you who changed it up and tagged me, thanks. I love seeing that stuff. It's cool to see the things we talk about on the show actually being done in person. I saw someone else emailed me today who said that a brand reached out, didn't have any money, and she was initially like would have turned it down, but had just watched some episode where I said don't do that, and managed to negotiate getting into their newsletter, which goes out to hundreds of thousands of people. So kudos there. Let me know if you know anything that you've taken away from the show or any of the interviews that we've done with influencers has helped you. If you're putting it into action and it's working, we love to hear that stuff, so drop me a line. Artist photographer wants to talk more about, wants to start featuring products they purchase with their viewers. What's the best approach to blending my personal work to an influencer feed without losing an artistic touch with the goal of getting attention from companies? Okay, so basically, we think about, I know we talked about before, thinking about why you have a following, right? And if, in this case, you're more of a photographer, conceptual artist, whatever it might be, how do you start to incorporate brands into this space since people are following you for your photos, not for a specific, for your brand recommendations? It's hard, I think that if you look at most of the Instagrammer photographers, there's not a huge amount of sponsored work going on in those spaces because of that exact reason, because people aren't following them for product advice and because those photos probably wouldn't do well. There's that photographer Firsty, let me spell Frusty, I think. He sometimes does some shots for whiskey brands that makes sense. He's very much an outdoors, camping photographer. Tim can throw one of the posts up, I'll send it to him, but he'll do a campfire with a bottle of whiskey and it feels like his feed. It feels like it makes sense. Jamie Beck does a good job of this as well. She's obviously a photographer and an artist, but she talks a lot about brands on her Insta stories. And she does a really good job of covering the things that brands send to her, and it feels really organic. And I think the easiest place to start is with photography equipment or things that, are kind of surround photography. And start there, because that kind of makes sense. I wouldn't worry too much about trying to right away, work with brands that are going to pay you, because it might be a little jarring to just start with a hashtag sponsored post. But if you start to organically talk about products in your feed, in a couple months after doing that, let's say once a week, you kind of talk about products. After a month of that or 2 months of that, having a hashtag sponsored post isn't going to be as jarring for your audience. Audiences can be trained. You can train them to know what to look for. It gets a little rough if you don't train them and you just totally, throw something new out there. It's probably not going to do that well. So, yeah, in short, start doing authentic posts. Try and shoot those things in an artistic way that feels natural and makes sense to your feed. Don't hold it up and, don't hold it like the, bottle of whiskey up next to your face and smile. Try and take really nice photos of it, and I think you'll find that it's pretty successful. Speaking of photography, shooting with an iPhone versus pro equipment, do the pictures look too staged, less organic? Does it even matter anymore? I'm gonna take a drink. Doesn't matter. No, I do not think it matters. I saw someone post something where they said they thought that Instagram's algorithm was set up to favor iPhone photos. I think that's bullshit. I don't think that that's happening. I don't think the camera that you take the photo on matters. We talked about this in the For You, and there's a podcast you can download if you haven't checked it out yet. But you're not gonna hack your way to success, right? Like if you have had an Instagram for years and you're at 1,000 followers and you've been trying for 3 years to grow it, changing to an iPhone isn't gonna make you massively successful. You know, these things that we talk about on the show are meant to be marginal gains. You know, it can get you a little bit here, a little bit extra here, a little bit extra here. It can give you a little more confidence when you negotiate. Maybe you try something new that, you know, can drive a bit more engagement, whatever it might be. If you're out there looking for a silver bullet, it doesn't exist. And something that worked for one person will not probably work for you in the same way. It's about finding something that people can connect with. It's about providing value on a consistent basis to those people. It's about entertaining people and inspiring them and informing them. The conduit for that, meaning the camera that you shoot it on, it really does not matter. Do I think people prefer more, you know, less staged, more in the moment photos? I mean, yes and no. Look at, you know, someone that we've talked about recently, you know, Q Mike, he's getting fucking crazy engagement. None of his photos are in the moment. They take like 6 hours to set up and shoot and edit. Like, those aren't in the moment at all, and he's absolutely killing it right now. Look at someone like, you know, the guy I was talking about, Firsty or Chris Burkhardt. Like, these are photos that take weeks sometimes to get. They're traveling for, you know, they're traveling thousands and thousands of miles to get one specific photo, and they're sitting in the same place for 3 fucking days waiting for everything to align so they can get the photo. Like, and those photos have crazy engagement. You know, like, in the moment, that in the moment stuff works for some people, it doesn't work for others. If you're worried about the camera that you're using, then I think you're probably worried about the wrong things. I will say this though, switching your camera, getting new equipment, changing it up can inspire you to get out there, learn something new, try different things. When I went iPhone only for a month, I certainly learned a few things. It kind of changed the way I thought about Instagram a little bit. It was a very useful exercise in that. When I used to shoot more and I would buy a new lens, you could see like it was a huge uptick in the amount of photos that I shot because I was just excited and inspired to try and shoot with this new camera. So I do think that buying a new camera, buying a new lens, switching to a different camera, switching to iPhone only, switching to just black and white, whatever it is, can help to, you know, shake the creativity tree a little bit and get you going again. If you're feeling like a little bit blocked up or uninspired and you're saying, does it even matter anymore? What the hell is going on? I don't know how to, you know, like nothing seems to be working. I think it is really helpful in that, but it's not the solution to your problems. So it's dangerous to think that. And anyone out there saying like, you need to be shooting with an iPhone, that's the only way you can grow right now, is fucking lying to you. And that's just a fact. So don't listen to them. Listen to me. On to the next one. Yeah, how do you grow your following if you aren't in a major city? Depends. You know, we've talked about this in a few different ways before. Meaning like you take the reality of your situation, you take what you can offer, and you think about how you can tell your story. And not being in New York City certainly does, or LA or London or Paris, whatever it might be. Of course, the New Yorker in me, when I say major city, it's like New York's the only major city. Everything else is a minor city. But that's just the New Yorker in me. Now, I don't know the exact numbers on the way the world's population is laid out, And I don't know where Instagram's population is kind of laid out across the world and across the country. But there are a lot of people that don't live in cities, that follow influencers in cities because it's, they may dream about living there, or they find the content more interesting, whatever it might be. But then there's the reality that a lot of people don't live in cities. And let's say you're a style influencer. If myself or Tim walked into a small town in America and we were dressed sometimes the way we dress, it would not be normal. I can just speak from personal experience. I go to Georgia or I go down south somewhere wearing the clothes that I wear. You get a lot of looks, you get a lot of pointing, you get some comments, it draws a lot of attention in a way that a lot of people probably don't want to. And I think that, if you don't live in a city, and I'm just assuming here that we're talking about being a style or beauty influencer. The ways that people dress are different in different parts of the country. God knows LA can't dress itself. You don't need to look much further than that to know that that is true. But if you're an influencer and you're in Cincinnati or Chicago or Dallas, the kind of cultural norms of the place that you live are different than that of New Yorkers, right? And I think that you can speak to a more local audience and give them advice that is more actionable, more obtainable than somebody from LA or New York could. The other thing is that look at sports teams. People are very proud of the places that they're from. And I think that if you are known as a Dallas blogger in Dallas, that's going to help you gain a lot of popularity in Dallas and the surrounding areas, because people like to follow their hometown heroes, and they want to see, my mom just moved to Richmond and she found a few bloggers that are from Richmond. She likes to follow them because, well, she lives in fucking Richmond. And so it's interesting to see what they're doing, and it gives her advice on restaurants or bars that she should be checking out in her local area. It is not as interesting for her anymore to be following a bunch of New York City-based influencers, because she doesn't need to know what bars she should be going to in the Lower East Side or about this new restaurant that opened in the West Village as much as she used to when she lived in New York. And so I think, honing in on that and doing something that other people can't do. New York City-based influencers aren't going to be able to give people in Richmond great advice on where to go to dinner this weekend, but you can. And while you maybe can't grow as big of a following as a Something Navy, who is living in New York and and has kind of all the benefits that come along with that, the attention, the brand deals, the endless content that you can shoot here, you have something that other people can't have. So I would focus on that, and this is something we continue to talk about. Focus on what makes you different and make that a benefit, not a detraction. Niches are valuable. Niches are valuable because, as brands start to focus the money that they're spending, they want to make sure that money they're spending is being spent well. We just did a project with San Diego Tourism Board, and they were very insistent that they wanted influencers whose followings were in San Diego, not even LA. So brands are starting to get that hyper focused of I want people that are in this city and I want to speak to those people. So look, my last thing I'll say is that you're an influencer. Let's say you got 50,000 followers, right? You may be you may have the 10,000th biggest following in New York City, or the second biggest following in Omaha, Nebraska. And I can guarantee that the second biggest following in Omaha is more valuable than the 10,000th biggest following in New York City. It's up to you to be able to pitch it and to leverage it and to start to work with more local businesses, or speak to larger global or nationwide businesses and tell them why the niche that you speak to is really invested in what you do. That's a sale that you should be able to make. I think we've talked about it before. So good luck finding it in the last 86 episodes.
Drink with James certification.
Oh, yeah. When's that? A couple weeks, right?
Yeah, end of the month.
That brings up a good point. We have recently transcribed every single episode of Drink with James, and we're creating a search engine that you will be able to type in any term and find the exact point in the video where I spoke about that thing. Tim and I are really excited about it. It's going to make it much easier to go through and say, okay, I want to see every time we talked about negotiation or growing your account or photography or whatever it might be. I think it's launching in 2 weeks. We're super stoked, so look out for that. And you'll be able to find when I talked about how to take your niche and pitch it to a brand. So thank you guys. As always, send your questions. Without them, what the fuck am I doing here? Cheers.